Your goal is to speak English confidently and fluently. But unfortunately, many times you don't know how to overcome the hurdles that you're experiencing. How can you sound like the native English speakers and not be nervous each time you try to speak? This lesson is for you, my friend. I'm going to teach you in 4 simple steps how to finally sound like me. Are you ready? Well then, I'm Teacher Tiffany. Let's jump right in. Step number 1, listen. Now, the first thing you must do is listen to native English speakers actually having real life conversations. This is so important because as an English learner, you're exposed to many different English courses, you're exposed to many different English books, grammar rules, and the list goes on. But if you want to sound like a native English speaker, you must listen to native English speakers having conversations. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is a transcript of an entire conversation I had with one of my friends, who also happens to be an English teacher. We were speaking about this topic, learning. And I want us to check out a short section, a portion of this conversation. Again, we are on step number 1. So we're going to check out a portion from this conversation. Again, on the listen step, you have to listen to real conversations from native English speakers. So here's that small section of the conversation. I was speaking with my friend, a fellow teacher. Her name is Carly. And this is what I said at that portion. That section. I need to be in a classroom setting because when you're studying on your own, and this is even for the student watching this, like we hope you stay with us forever. When you study on your own, you're really kind of grasping at straws, we say. You're just like, let me do this, I'll do this, let me study this, and I'll study this. You really have no clear plan or direction because you don't know how to get somewhere you've never been to before. You need someone that's been there before to give you the directions and just kind of follow their guidance. And that's what was happening with Korean. And I was like, I need to be in a classroom setting because there are certain pillars that I need. There's a foundation that needs to be built that I can't build because I've never built this thing before as far as speaking Korean. So that's why I prefer a classroom setting. I tend to flourish in a classroom setting. Now, again, I want to emphasize that this is just a small portion of the conversation I had with the teacher on this topic of learning. But in this small section, this small portion, you saw and you probably heard many new expressions, many new terms, I'm leaving this in here, new terms that can help you sound more like a native English speaker. So here are the terms that I want to break down for you to help you understand how to use them in real life. We have grasping at straws, pillars, and flourish. So this leads us into our second step. Remember, step 1 was to listen. You heard what I was saying during this conversation. Even though you missed some of the words and terms, you still did step 1, to listen. Step number 2 now is to learn. You have to learn the terms that native English speakers use in real conversations. So once again, all the terms we have: grasping at straws, pillars, and flourish. 3 terms that I used in that short section, that short portion of the conversation. Again, we're on step 2, now learning the words from that section. So let's get started with the first term, grasping at straws. Excellent. Repeat after me again. Grasping at straws. Excellent. Now, this term just refers to making a desperate or hopeless attempt to find a solution or explanation, often by using weak or unreliable evidence or ideas. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm just going to try again. Desperate or a hopeless attempt. In English, we say grasping at straws. And as I was speaking during the conversation, I used this expression. But the question is, how can you use it in real life? So here are some example sentences. Here's the first one. The suspect's defense lawyer was grasping at straws to provide an alibi for his client. He was very desperate. He didn't know what to do. Second example sentence. She was grasping at straws, trying to come up with any reason to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. She didn't know what she could do, but she was trying. And finally, the manager was grasping at straws to justify the company's poor performance rate. Again, we're speaking about this term, grasping at straws. Now, just a reminder, everything that I am teaching you in this lesson actually comes from a course, Speak English Like a Native, where I teach students based on these steps that I'm teaching you today. So, grasping at straws, again, if I'm going to the month where I taught my students this topic, we can see right here, I actually taught them the terms, grasping at straws, pillars, and flourish. And I explained how to use them, and I also showed them where the terms were used in the conversation, at what times these terms were used. So you are now learning what my students actually learned. So let's move on now to the next term. We have grasping at straws. Now it's pillars. Again, we're learning the terms that are actually used by native English speakers. Step 2 is the learn step. So after me, pillars. Excellent. Again, pillars. Great job. So pillars, this just means strong and important foundations or supports of something. For example, whenever I teach English conversation, I emphasize the pillars of giving examples, giving details, making sure you can support your idea, your opinion, maybe with reasons, all right? Pillars, again, strong and important foundations. So, how can you use this in a sentence? Here's the first example sentence. Education and healthcare are considered pillars of today's modern society. The second example sentence. Honesty and integrity are the pillars of a strong and trustworthy friendship. Remember, this word came from the conversation between myself and another native English speaker. So you're learning a real English word used by native English speakers in real life. Step 2, the learn step. And here's the third example sentence. The economy relies on different pillars such as manufacturing, technology, and finance. So you see, this term pillars can be used in many different situations. So now it's time for us to move to our third term. Again, step 2 is all about learning the terms used by native English speakers. Step 1, we listened to part of the conversation. Step 2, we're learning the terms used by native English speakers. The third term again after me, flourish. Good. Again, flourish. Excellent. Now, this term just means to thrive, grow, or prosper in a healthy and successful way. You are prospering, you are thriving, you are flourishing as an English learner. I hope so. I hope my lessons help you to flourish and to feel good about your English. All right? Here are 3 example sentences using this term. The first example sentence. The business began to flourish after implementing new marketing strategies and techniques. Here's the second example sentence. With proper care and attention, plants and flowers can flourish in the garden in no time. Sidebar, this is not in my notes. I just recently started growing some plants. Listen. And they are flourishing, baby. Every time I see them when I walk in my dining room, I'm like, yes, I'm excited about them. They are flourishing. True story. All right. And here's the third example sentence. The artist's career started to flourish after receiving recognition from an influential critic in the industry. Again, this term used by a native English speaker is flourish. You got it? Excellent. So once again, we're talking about the second step, learn. You have to learn the terms used by native English speakers. Now, throughout the conversation, there were many other terms and expressions that were used by myself and the other English teachers. So my students learned all of these terms. But let's continue, because now we have to go to step number 3. We listened for step number 1. Step number 2, you learned the 3 new expressions, the terms that were used by me, a native English speaker. Now you know them. Now it's time to move to step 3. This step is very important. Step 3 is the analyze step. I want you to say it after me. Analyze. Excellent. Now, before I break this down, let me explain. Before I break down the transcript, right, what we're talking about, I want to help you see the importance of analyzing, right? Native English speakers, we speak a certain way because we think a certain way. So for you as an English learner, in order for you to speak like me, you've got to think like me. So let's break down the portion of the conversation again. Remember, we looked at the conversation that I had. We selected a portion of the conversation at about the 14-minute mark. I want us to analyze this part of the conversation. So, transcript analysis. So, I have it right on the screen for those watching. Again, we're on the analyze phase. The step, and this is what we're doing first. The very first thing I said was, I need to be in a classroom setting. What was I doing? I was giving my personal opinion. Man, I hope you're taking notes. I know my students that are watching are like, yes, Tiff, we know exactly what you're talking about. My students in my academy in the program. But again, the very first thing I said I need to be in a classroom setting. That's my personal opinion. Please take notes. This is going to be so important, all right? You have to think like a native English speaker. So I first gave my personal opinion. What happened next? After I gave my personal opinion, I then proceeded to give a reason. My personal opinion was first, then I gave a reason. Listen closely. Because when you're studying on your own, I'm going to skip down, you're kind of grasping at straws. You're just like, let me do this and then this, let me study this and study this. You have no clear plan. So what did I do? Remember, the first thing I gave was my personal opinion. I need to be in a classroom setting. The person listening to me is probably wondering, I wonder why Tiff said that. Oh, let me give you the reason. Let me provide the reason, because I know you're probably asking yourself why. And then I explain, because you're usually grasping at straws when you don't have someone to guide you. After giving the reason, please take notes, my friend. Then what did I do? I then proceeded to give my personal opinion again. These are the fundamentals of English conversation. And again, I teach these to my students. So I gave my personal opinion again. Watch what happened. You need someone that's been there before to give you the directions and just kind of follow their guidance. That's my personal opinion. There might be another person, another English teacher who has a different methodology, and their methodology might be good, right? But we're focusing on using this methodology to understand, wait a minute, why did Tiffani speak like that? Why did she give her answer in that order? My third fundamental, the third fundamental I use of English conversation, personal opinion. So I have the first one being the personal opinion, the second one being a reason, and the third one, again, being my personal opinion. You need someone that's there to give you directions, all right? Now, don't forget, I am speaking about learning. Remember, the full transcript, the conversation, the entire conversation was actually about learning, all right? It was actually about learning. So even though you're not hearing the entire conversation, you can still see that I was speaking to my friend about learning, all right? So continuing now, let's know, again, personal opinion. After I gave my personal opinion, I then gave a personal experience. Personal experience. I said, and that's what was happening with Korean. I was like, I need to be in a classroom setting. I then proceeded to give my personal experience. I speak Korean. 안녕하세요 for those that are Korean. And I understand what you as an English learner are going through right now because it's challenging to learn a language as an adult. So in the conversation, I mentioned my personal experience. So I started again, personal opinion, then a reason, then a personal opinion, and then a personal experience. But I didn't stop there. Remember, we're analyzing this aspect or this part of the conversation. I then gave my personal opinion again. I said, so that's why I prefer a classroom setting. I tend to flourish in a classroom setting. I think I flourish in a classroom setting. That's my personal opinion. So again, we've analyzed the conversation. But what do we do with this analysis? We create a formula. Personal opinion, reason, personal opinion, personal experience, personal opinion turns into PO plus R plus PO plus PE plus PO. Whenever I do this, I teach this method to my students every month. And whenever I do this, I feel like I want to start rapping. PO. I feel like I want to start rapping. Oh, maybe I'll tell you guys that story. Stay till the end for story time. I'll tell you guys the rapping story. All right. So this is the formula we created by analyzing the part of the conversation. Again, remember, I said the full conversation is what I taught my students, but we're looking at this portion of the conversation where I was speaking. So we have this formula. PO plus R plus PO plus PE plus PO. What do we do with this formula? Thanks for the formula, Tiff. I'm an English learner. I realized, okay, I listened. Step 2, I learned. Step 3, we analyzed. What do we do for step 4? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, boo. Step 4. Step 4 is all about applying what you just did. Now it's time to apply practical application. So here we go. Practical application. We have right here our formula that we just created in step number 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at examples. I want us to look at this example. Here's the question. The question is, why do you think, or which do you think is better? Self-paced learning or a classroom setting? Now, this is actually the question that I was answering during the conversation. During this section of the conversation, I was actually answering this specific question. So I'm going to have you look at the exact same question. Again, which do you think is better? Self-paced learning or a classroom setting? Using our formula. So here's the first part. Personal opinion. All right. I strongly believe, this is an example. I strongly believe classroom learning has more advantages than self-paced learning. Remember, we're getting you to the point of speaking like a native English speaker using these simple steps, all right? Personal opinion, I strongly believe classroom learning has more advantages than self-paced learning. All right, what's the next thing you should say following the formula? Oh, you're smart. Yes. The next thing you need to say is the reason why. So the structured environment helps maintain motivation, and having immediate feedback from teachers and peers is invaluable. Plus, the social interaction creates a more engaging learning experience that's hard to replicate when studying alone. I just gave reasons for the personal opinion. Right after that, what do we have to do now? Yes, personal opinion again. Having someone guide you through complex topics is really essential for deep understanding. That's a personal opinion. Right after that, I have to now give a personal experience. Here's an example personal experience. When I was learning Spanish, I tried self-study apps for 6 months and barely made progress. But after joining a language school, I became conversational in just 3 months because of the regular practice and expert guidance. Personal experience. You have a personal experience. Again, you're following this formula to answer the question. Why? Because you want to sound like a native English speaker. And here's the last part of the formula. Personal opinion. That's why I'll always choose classroom learning over self-paced options. That's a personal opinion. Now, what does this look like, the entire response? Again, many times you hear English speakers speaking and you're not sure exactly how they're able to speak so fluently. We as native English speakers have been learning this way our entire lives, learning how to support our answers, personal opinions, reasons, and details. So you need a teacher that helps you break this down. Hopefully, I'm that teacher. All right, so let's look at the entire response now based on this formula. Here's the first example. I actually prefer self-paced learning over traditional classroom settings. With self-paced learning, you can move as quickly or as slowly as you need to, and you're not held back by others or forced to rush through material you haven't mastered yet. You can also learn at times that work best for your schedule. This flexibility is absolutely crucial for working professionals like myself. Last year, I completed an online coding boot camp at my own pace while working full-time. I could review difficult concepts multiple times and skip through things I already knew. If I had been forced to follow a classroom schedule, I probably would have dropped out. Self-paced learning is definitely the way to go in today's fast-paced world. All right, so let's listen to the full response now. Here is the full response, using all of the parts. I strongly believe classroom learning has more advantages than self-paced learning. The structured environment helps maintain motivation, and having immediate feedback from teachers and peers is invaluable. Plus, the social interaction creates a more engaging learning experience that's hard to replicate when studying alone. Having someone guide you through complex topics is really essential for deep understanding. When I was learning Spanish, I tried self-study apps for 6 months and barely made progress, but after joining a language school, I became conversational in just 3 months because of the regular practice and expert guidance. That's why I'll always choose classroom learning over self-paced options. Now, that right there was a response that a native English speaker would give. That was a fluent and confident response. Why? Because we used the formula that was based on a native English speaker's response. Again, simple 4 steps: listen, learn, analyze, and apply. But it doesn't stop there. We can use this formula to give an even different response. Same question. Check out this one now. We're going to go to the next example. Here's example number 2. Again, same question. Which do you think is better? Self-paced learning or a classroom setting? Here's the first part. I actually prefer self-paced learning over traditional classroom settings. Makes sense? Once again, part 1 is giving your personal opinion. Part 2, with self-paced learning, and you might hear the siren in the background, we're leaving it in. With self-paced learning, you can move as quickly or slowly as you need to. And you're not held back by others or forced to rush through material you haven't mastered yet. You can also learn at times that work best for your schedule. I'm giving a reason for my personal opinion. Then we have to move to the next part of the formula, another personal opinion. This flexibility is absolutely crucial for working professionals like myself. Moving to the next part of the formula, personal experience now. Last year, I completed an online coding boot camp at my own pace while working full-time. I could review difficult concepts multiple times and skip through things I already knew. If I had been forced to follow a classroom schedule, I probably would have dropped out. Personal experience. Then we move to the last part of the formula, personal opinion again. Self-paced learning is definitely the way to go in today's fast-paced world. You got it right. Each part of the formula we created after analyzing the conversation. Analyzing the portion of the conversation can be found in this response. Check out the full response. Here's the full response. I actually prefer self-paced learning over traditional classroom settings. You see, with self-paced learning, you can move as quickly or slowly as you need to, and you're not held back by others or forced to rush through material you haven't mastered yet. You can also learn at times that work best for your schedule. This flexibility is absolutely crucial for working professionals like myself. Last year, I completed an online coding boot camp at my own pace while working full-time. I could review difficult concepts multiple times and skip through things I already knew. If I had been forced to follow a classroom schedule, I probably would have dropped out. Self-paced learning is definitely the way to go in today's fast-paced world. You see, that response is absolutely amazing. Why? Because we used the formula that we created in step number 3, analyzing the conversation. And we're not going to stop there. There's a third example. Again, I want you to see the power of these 4 steps. Example number 3, same question, different response. Personal opinion, the first part of the formula. I think a combination of both classroom and self-paced learning works best. That's personal opinion. Part 2, reason. Each method has its own strengths. Classroom learning provides structure and immediate feedback, while self-paced learning offers flexibility and independence. By combining both, you can get the best of both worlds. This is the reason. Right after the reason, what do we need? Personal opinion again. Here we go. It's really about finding the right balance for your learning style. That's my personal opinion. Next, personal experience. During my master's degree, I had regular classes, but also did online modules at my own pace. The classroom sessions helped me stay motivated and connected with others, while the self-paced portions allowed me to deep dive into topics I was particularly interested in. Personal experience. And then the last part, again, personal opinion. That's why I believe a hybrid approach is the most effective way to learn. Same question, same formula, different responses. You can use this formula because look at what happened with this response. The question again, which do you think is better? Self-paced learning or a classroom setting? Answer, I think that a combination of both classroom and self-paced learning works best. Each method has its own strengths. Classroom learning provides structure and immediate feedback, while self-paced learning offers flexibility and independence. By combining both, you can get the best of both worlds. It's really about finding the right balance for your learning style. During my master's degree, I had regular classes, but also did online modules at my own pace. The classroom sessions helped me stay motivated and connected with others, while the self-paced portions allowed me to deep dive into topics I was particularly interested in. That's why I believe a hybrid approach is the most effective way to learn. Again, an amazing response to this question that you, my friend, can give simply by using the formula we created. These simple steps, listen, learn, analyze, and apply, can help you finally speak English like a native. If you want to join me, if you want me to help you on your journey to speaking English like a native, hit the link in the description or go to speakenglishlikeanative.com. And each month, I'll teach you based on a new topic, and we'll follow the full program, which includes a 5th step. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and my friend, I will talk to you next time. Get me a little water. Doo-doo. You still there? You know what time it is. It's story time. Hey, hey, hey. I said it's story time. All right. I told you earlier that I would tell you the story, a quick story, the beatboxing story. I had to get the water. I remember, so growing up, and I told the story probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I told the story because my sister and I, so my family were very close, and we're also all early birds, all of us. I wake up at 4 a.m. My sister also wakes up around 4 or 5 a.m. My parents wake up early. We all get up early. So growing up, my mom used to have this song that she would sing my sister and I on Saturday mornings, right? Sabbath, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And she would come in and she'd sing the song, and it was such a wonderful wake-up call. Now, outside of Sabbath, my mom and my dad would kind of be in their bed just talking. And I remember this one Sunday, I'm just laying in bed. I was awake, but I just didn't feel like getting out the bed. And my sister did not knock. She just opened my door, right? She was like, Tiff, Tiff. I said, yeah, what's up? She knew I was awake. I said, what's up? She said, I got this song. I got this song and this rap. And I was like, okay. She piqued my interest. I said, okay. She said, but I want us to perform it for mommy and daddy. Now, I might have been 12 or 13, so she was probably around 18 or 17 or 18. So I said, okay, let me know, let me hear it. So she's, rapping or whatever, and I have the rhythm and the beatbox, and I'm like, okay. It was like a simple beat, right? And so my sister was like, yeah, yeah. And so she's rapping in my room, and she was like, all right, let's go to mommy and daddy's room. Now, we did knock. We knocked and opened, though. We had this thing where we would knock and open at the same time. So we knocked and opened the door. Mommy and daddy were laying in the bed, and they were like, can we help you, ladies? And then my sister was like, yes, we have something to show you. And they already knew. So I can remember their faces kind of just, the half smile, the little smirk. They're like, okay, go ahead. She said, Tiff, hit the beat. And so I started beatboxing, and I was kind of going with the flow, and she's rapping. Now, at this time, I'm in the zone, so I'm just, dancing and beatboxing. Simona, my sister, she's, rapping. So I wasn't looking at my parents' faces, but I can imagine, now that I'm older, I can imagine my parents trying to hold in their laughter while also experiencing so much joy. First, that their daughters wanted to bust into their room this early in the morning to share something with their parents. And secondly, the fact that the simple things in life were bringing us so much joy. I just want you to remember that life is going to take you down many different roads. But as you're on your journey, don't forget the good memories you have. Don't forget the times that you spent with your family or your friends when you were growing up, the times that made you smile, the times that brought joy to your heart, because those memories will carry you along your journey. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll talk to you next time.